Dmytro Vasylyev, the deputy head of the Center for Energy Studies. We continue the cycle of roundtables on the energy issues of Ukraine, especially that's so important on the eve of the Independence Day, and especially now when the neighboring country and the terrorists are working hard on us having no gas and no coal. We'll be talking about that. And you know, there's an event taking place now which we hope will not lead to any serious actions and consequences for our country, but we'll be getting ready for the victory, for having our country as independent and strong country. The topic of our roundtable is emergency situation in the coal industry. Will Ukraine be left without electricity in the near future? We'll be discussing that with Oleksandr Vivcharenko, the Director of Coal Industry Restructuring Department of the Ministry of Energy and Coal Industry of Ukraine, Mykhailo Volynets, Head of the Independent Trade Union of Miners of Ukraine and Confederation of Free Trade Unions of Ukraine. I know that Mr. Volynets has just returned from Donetsk. I believe he has some news. And traditionally from the Center for Energy Studies, the presentation will be made by Vadim Glamazdin, Deputy Director of the Center for Energy Studies. Vadim, you're welcome. Good afternoon to everyone. Today we'll be talking about the situation that is in the coal industry of Ukraine, and the situation there is quite concerning. However, that is not just limited to coal industry. It affects many other parts of our life and many other sectors, and first of all, it affects the electricity sector of the country. So myself and the colleagues will talk about that, and I will start from saying that, from giving you the picture of what we have now. Talking about coal, we understand where the mines are located. 70, even more % of the coal mining in Ukraine is concentrated in Donbass, in Donetsk, Lugansk, and Dnipropetrovsk regions. Today, just taking into account what's happening there because of many reasons, because the system of energy supply for mines has been ruined, and there's the threat of direct shellings, but almost half of mines are operating just in the very limited mode. They are basically producing coal only for internal use, and some of the mines stopped mining coal. I understand that people from the ministry and from the Trade Union of Miners will give us the updated information, but according to our information, 9 mines are in such a status that they will not be it will not be possible to restore them even after the military activities stop. So what's happening? The production of coal is getting lower. The situation does not look that critical, though. If we look at the figures for the 7 months of this year, from January to July, the decrease in production is just 3%. But because we always had the surplus of coal, well, 3% is just within the era. But in July, the previous months, the production was more or less at the level of the previous year, but in this July compared to the previous July, the production decreased by 21%. More of coking coal and less the energy coal. Even the energy coal, the production of energy coal was reduced by 16%. So it's still not critical. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But the rates of decrease are quite significant. What might be the result of that situation if we do not produce coal? The metallurgical and power sector, electricity sector are suffering, but we'll be talking about electricity sector. I would like to remind you what's the situation with producing energy, electric energy. These are the figures on what electricity goes into the grid. We have two major generators, nuclear and coal generation. You see that in the last year they generated more or less similar volumes of energy. We have several of the thermal electric power plants. Most of them operate on gas, but some on coal. All of them are, all those which are here, they are coal operating thermal electric power plants. Basically, once there are some problems in the coal industry, there is a threat to 42%, that's potential threat, but still it's 42% of the generation in the country. Talking in more detail, what is the situation at thermal power, electric power plants? Is the situation there that threatening? You cannot see it well, but you will be able to get this presentation from our website, that all the heat generating plants, electric power plants, the reserve of coal compared to the reserve of coal last year, compared to the August last year, everywhere it has been reduced. In some cases, it's more or less normal, it's 70–80% of the previous, but everywhere the reserve has decreased. That does not lead to any critical situation, but still this is the situation which starts to be threatening. Why is it threatening? Here you can see some figures on thermal power plants, how much energy each one of the plants was producing. Two plants out of those which we have, they are disconnected from this system, Slavyanska and the Girska. One because of the fighting in the area, the second one because of some big accident which took place last year, and 5 more plants are in the situation when they have some reserves of coal, but we cannot supply more coal to them. People are saying now that they don't supply this coal from Donbass. Why don't you supply that from Western Ukraine? But there are two things here. In the Western Ukraine, we produce about 10% only. But secondly, what is more important, each power plant is operating on a specific grade of the coal. We cannot supply anthracite to the plant which is designed for T grade coal. And there are some plants which operate on the coal, which is produced just in 2-3 coal mines in Ukraine, and these mines are in the zone of ATO. You see this percentage, that's the percentage of the total generation in the country. Today, more than 20% of the total generation is under threat. If the situation does not improve, this will stop. We do not include the thermal power plants there. They all operate on either coal or gas, and you know what's happening with the gas. What does that mean? You see this is the average graph of consumption per day of electricity. There's a certain gap at night and the peak in the daytime, and the difference is 25%. And that's covered exclusively by thermal generation, not hydro generation. 15% of capacity is basically supported by the coal generation plant. And this whole difference cannot be covered by the system. We will have a shortage. We will not be able to maintain the parameters of the current, and that would mean that the accident will be much bigger than just disconnection of a couple of regions. All this difference, all that peak, is because of the households. It's not the industrial consumption, it's the consumption by households. What's up there is what the population consumes. What potential consequences could there be from this situation? You can just imagine. Is it all that awful? Are we getting ahead towards the accident? I would like to say that all the coals, even that they do have coal mines, they do have coal there. If we resume the control over the supply of coal from the mines to the electric power plant, then everything will be fine. But this whole situation resulted in non-standard conclusion. The railway bridges are also important because the coal is transported by railway from the mines to the power plants. And the biggest problems today we have, because in many cities the railway bridges are destroyed. They are being restored by the railway service, by the emergency situations service, but we still have problems there. So in principle, if we believe that there will be the situation when we can do nothing, we still have some way out. We can import some coal. We can even import electricity. It's better not to do that because this could be done just from only Russia. But if we get this situation, then the functioning of the economy and our life will be reduced heavily. We would like to hear from our colleagues, from our experts, how they see the situation and what do the coal mining companies plan, and what does our ministry plan to do not to allow the development of this situation, not to take the situation to the to the time when there will be no light in the country. So now I would like to give the floor to our experts. Thank you, Vadim. I would like to introduce one more person, the Deputy Minister of Coal Industry and Energy, Mr. Vadim Ulida, and I will give the floor to him. Thank you. I would like to say that the conditions in which the energy sector of Ukraine is operating are emergency conditions. We have never had such situation during the whole time of existence of Ukraine. In the east of Ukraine, we have the fighting going on, and that affects the operation of the whole system. The electric grids are being ruined, destroyed, and today when we are talking about main lines, we disconnect some of them because of the fighting. 261 lines of 330 kilowatt and 124 of 35 kilowatt. 308 lines of 68 kilowatt, 261 sub-plants, 2,700 units. So basically we have 172 settlements which are without light, without electricity in Donetsk and Lugansk region. But the ministry is doing everything to ensure the supply of electricity to citizens and to the industry. And where it is possible, we conduct the emergency work where there's no battle going on, where there's no fighting going on. The specialists go there and they resume what has been damaged in the result of the conflict. The supply of coal, well, the situation, as it has been correctly mentioned, we have the problem with the supply of that coal to thermal power plants. We do have enough coal, even though more than 30 mines are not operating because the infrastructure is damaged. The coal mining continues, but there is a problem in transportation of that coal via the regions where the active fighting is going on. And so now we deliver this coal to the warehouses. Because we were forecasting such a situation, we accumulated enough coal, and such aggravation of the situation started when the supply of coal was stopped. The events are developing today so that much will depend on how the armed conflict develops. If the military actions in the regions where the railway roads will be suspended, will be stopped, then according to the Ministry of Transportation, in a week or two the whole infrastructure can be resumed and the situation will be normalized. We are using measures which are accessible, affordable. We're trying to reduce the generation of electricity where there's shortage of coal and generate more where there is a surplus of coal. In the beginning of summer, we reviewed the program of repair works to most efficiently use the capacity of thermal power plants. We have introduced limits on export of electricity, and we introduce also limits to internal consumers in Ukraine, especially to the Autonomous Republic of Crimea, that produced certain effect. We reduced the consumption of coal significantly, and we are working on the issues of import of coal. We'll be receiving it via ports in the nearest future, but that is the situation just on the eve of the autumn period, and that situation is quite negative, and we are concerned so much with it. And because of that, we expect that this conflict in the regions which are critical for coal supply will be reduced, and we will be able to resume the supplies. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Minister. We understand that we do have the potential to resume everything. We just hope that there will be no military actions. I would like to invite Oleksandr Vivcharenko to take the floor, the Director of Coal Industry Restructuring Department of the Ministry. Good afternoon. I will be talking more about the problems of coal sector which we have. In the beginning, I would like to thank all people who are in energy sector. I really want to thank them, because during the time of all these military actions, there were so many damages to the power plants and lines. Unless the courage of these people, we would have many people who would stay underground, very deep, where they are mining coal. But we need to mention that in all these cases there were options found to reconnect the supply of electricity, and all the miners were lifted up to the surface. Our sector has 93 operating mines, 82 are being abandoned, liquidated, and 12 of them are prepared for liquidation. Talking about who's operating in August, only 24 out of 93 mines are operating in August. 23, these are those which are not in the zone of military conflict. Lviv, Volynets, Krasnoarmeysk Uголь, Selidov Uголь, Krasnolimanskaya mine. These are the mines, and 2 more mines in Donetsk region, Yuzhno-Donbasska number 1, Yuzhno-Donbasska number 3. They also located, even though in Donetsk region, but outside the active military actions zone. 26 mines were also operating in the beginning, plus to those 24 were also operating in the beginning of August, but then they had to suspend the operations. 39 mines are pumping out water, and there are minimum people there who are involved into these operations. That does not take place regularly, because no one informs about when the bombing will take place and when people will be unable to go down into the mine. And 4 mines which are just in the regime of being secured, they are not operating as well. In 2014, within the 7 months, the companies of the Ministry of Energy and Coal Industry produced 700,000 tons more than in 2013. Though all over Ukraine the production was reduced by 3%. We did not work well, we did not operate well in 2013, but the beginning of 2014 was very stable. Talking about our energy security, out of all the electric power plants, of those which are operating, about 50%, well, some of them are using gas grade coals and others the anthracite. Now we don't have any shortage in gas grade coals, because these companies, 24 companies which are outside of the zone, they all produce gas grade coal, plus the region which is the western Donbass, where there are companies which are under DTEC. They produce about 55,000 tons of gas grade coals per day. There's no shortage, but we do have shortage with A grade, and in some electric power plants the minimum reserve is for 11 days and the maximum is 50 days, with taking the norm of burning which we have at electric power plants. But how will we be able to supply coal to electric power plants? I have a map here, and there are railways here, and our coal companies are on the map, and also the territory which is more or less exactly under the influence of separatists, and the territory which is controlled by Ukrainian armed forces. So all the mines, unfortunately, are concentrated on the territory which is controlled by separatists. And A and T grade coals, they are on the territory which is adjacent to Russian border. Светлов антрацит, Donbass антрацит, Красный Луч, Шахтер, Snezhnoye, Terez. All these settlements, that is the ridge where all this coal is of that grade. I'm not military, but I can see that if these will be liberated, then that will be probably during the latest phase of liberating our territory. There is a shortage and there is a threat that at a certain period of time we can have no fuel. The only option is import to Ukraine, and the sooner we have import, the more stable the situation will be with energy supply in Ukraine. In 2014, talking about the anthracite grades, we worked better than in 2013. I have a graph. I will not show you all these curves month by month, but we see the decrease starting from July, and it continues in August. In average, we were producing about 2 million tons of coal of different grades in 2014 in the beginning, but in August we expect to produce only 667,000 tons, which is 1/3 or even less than 1/3 of our regular production.
Among 24 mines that are functioning, outside of 80 will get 509,158,000 on those enterprises that were working since the beginning of the month, and now they are dead. So that's why the situation is complicated in coal industry. But nevertheless, we are thinking about. We believe that there will be peace, and we prepare a document on building a committee that will invite specialists, experts, and as soon as our mines are liberated, they will work on research. They will develop projects and how they will develop designs and how to overcome consequences and in order to enlarge what we mine. And before all of these events, we had no deficit of any kind of coal. We provided the whole 100% of different kinds of coal. Thank you, Oleksandr. One comment, please, about gas and also the stations which use gas. The situation is better than anthracite, but there is one station they cannot deliver fuel because the fuel Tizuyska power station is near Donetsk. Yes, true. I would like to give the floor to Mykhailo Volynets, who's the head of independent unions of miners, and he will provide the information. He just fresh information from Donetsk, and he has information about just from the city. I have an impression that if we are militants in Donbass, if they destroy industry and people and all life, then the Ministry of Energy and Coal they destroy the economy of our country. Do we know that in Kryvyi Rih, Ministry of Energy and Coal and through Ukraine, they introduced limitations on providing electricity? Why? Mines, 6 mines of and some other mines which belong to ArcelorMittal, Sukhabalka, they prepare to switch to two shifts, from 2 to 1 shift. If they don't get, or Ukraine, if they don't export it, Ukraine will not get accuracy and will get less revenues. If that continues, will not produce steel, and the same situation will happen. Was there a discussion by the Ministry of Anywhere? Did they explain that to the society, or they just? What about the minister? Did he approve supplies of electricity or not? If we didn't have this Ukraine Crisis Media Center, probably no. You found it. You would find it about in a week after strikes of workers, and in the end of the month there will be on Sunday. There will be a day of miners, and they will understand that there are salary cuts, and they will not be able to feed their families. The only solution, as a representative of the ministry told, is to buy coal from abroad. And I will tell you, don't shut down mines. We have a program to shut down 55 mines. Why to do that? Why to make people unhappy? Mr. Zyuko, for example, in Holos, Ukraine, or the day before yesterday, he published his interview that yes, we should shut down mines. And the minister Yuri Prodan told me, yes, come down. Don't raise these issues. Nobody will close mines. I was the discussion. Did they study the situation? I look morale, like climate or mood among miners, and one Ukrainian armed forces liberated 1 mines, and people received their salary for June. They were saving the mine from they were pumping out water, and he told that we work with the ministry, we're trying to pump out water, and we saved them. Okay, they saved, but they didn't receive a salary for July. So do we propose them to come to a strike? I was in there is was in one more district, and there are a lot of mines, and I was at I was in some other group of cities with mines. The task is to reduce the salary by 15%. People get more coal. They did not support separatists, but they reduced their salary, and people start running away from those enterprises. But miners, where towns have no gas, they should receive coal just for their needs. Nobody provides that. Okay, what we have frost? How you can go and work if you are cold as a dog in your house? Dmytro, for example, all boilers switched to gas during the previous years, to Russian gas. Of course, it's clear that there is no gas, and there will be no gas, but they get coal. They didn't do anything. I speak to the mayor of Dmytro, and I ask him, what are you thinking? He's not thinking about the situation. This is a bad situation, and the miners are concerned about that. I asked the minister yesterday, you want to buy coal from Colombia because Poland refused. Poland cannot get more coal. Is there any explanation for that? Maybe that money should be sent to support our mines. That money just don't finance jobs abroad. And Zhukov told me, and there's no balance as to what kinds of coal to get. And the expert told here, and that he told, and that there is we don't have enough of anthracite and some other like tea brand. Krivoriska heats power station. They get coal from Komsomolets Donbass. They get about 13,000 tons a day. And a day ago, they had no electricity. And miners, they need to get miners on the top, and but also they cannot get coal. And also those gas, the steel coal miners get, for example, in Chernobyl, they stole 13,000 tons of enriched coal. They steal. They come with their trucks, and they're armed, and they take that coal to Russia. Not only coal, just equipment, everything everything they see, they steal everything to Russia. Probably those trucks with humanitarian assistance come probably back. They will take everything they like to Russia. I have no doubt that's how they will do it. Next, why not to look, and why not to some regions where they have anthracite and other coals. I visited some battalions, and I spoke to military men, and they told that there is no command. We could liberate Horlovka. Representatives of battalions. They were very unhappy with me and some other MPs. Why we don't receive weapons? They are not happy with what the government is doing. They told that we are happy to liberate and defend our sovereignty of energy, and coal lives in a parallel world. Cabinet of Ministers lives on the moon, and somebody lives on the Mars. That's why they cannot meet. They cannot anticipate what will happen to our energy sector. I told them many times, because if energy system of Ukraine will die, then we'll have to take it from Russia. Then we'll have to beg on our knees, and we will be their slaves. Then Russia, gradually, in a year, will control energy system of that territory. there are some limitations for Crimea. I don't know for how long that happens. What about a mediation company to Crimea? They produce only 10% of electricity. 90% comes from mainland of Ukraine. Not all of that goes to population. And we gave them electricity and to support the activity of Black Sea Fleet, Russian Black Sea Fleet, missiles, mines of Russia, and command points. And we create a comfortable life in Crimea for many tourists from Russian Federation. Why only now they introduced limitations to our enterprises, and only now they started to do that for Crimean enterprises? So I don't want you to have the impression that they are very critical here. That I am only criticizing here. But Lviv enrichment coal enrichment company. That is like a Lviv. That's very important for mines in Lviv region, and that company belongs to pretend they don't pay salary even for April. They were blocking roads to the factory. About 800 women. The salary is around 2,000, and even they don't pay even that. And that's torture of those people who supported Maidan, and nobody reacts. Also, they want to close. They prepared already in Lviv region, according to the program. 6 mines. 4 will work. That's according to the plans of the minister. And then in all the region, 3 more, and they have 2 heat stations. Okay, if they need, they could deliver coal. I had a meeting with the representatives of DTEC, and they told that in winter we'll have to buy 600,000 tons of coal. I thought it would be for 850 million, and the Ministry of Coal, which is supposed to procure, I don't know how much they were planning to do it. But if I look at calculations and how they get mine coal in Ukraine, you see, there was a reduction among private companies, and then it got even. But in state mines, there's a stable fall down. And in July, when they mined 1 million less than July last year, and if we have such dynamics, and under the war, if we lose about 2 million tons of coal, then we'll have a big reduction, and especially when we have no gas, there will be a big burden on electricity stations, and if all the system will die, we will have to start it gradually. In such a case, we should have a stable reserve. Then, why do we reduce a salary reserve for miners? Why we are silent when miners leave mines? And there are many people who are employed by the industry. Why in Volynets region? Maybe those mines are not that profitable, but the mines in Lviv region are in a better shape. Why to close now? To pump water? Maybe to pump. It's important to pump water out and to get coal. Now they pull they will flood 16 mines are flooding, but we have to think about environmental consequences. It will be Chernobyl number 2. But in Donbass region, and Russia will get it, because my waters from mine, they connect. Everything is in the holes, like in Russia, and Russia closed more than 100 mines during the last years. Everything will be there. So all the world should know about that, and about this environmental catastrophe. We have to speak about that. Have you heard about anyone about this problem and how people can live there only in Donetsk and Luhansk region? I am about to conclude. Sorry. There will be strikes. I went to Donbass, and I know that miners are quite worried. In again, two mines over in Vasilyev, two mines are about to be shut down, and miners are not confident. And from the other, on the other hand, Donbass is occupied, and it's dangerous to live there. And there are a lot of IDPs, including miners. And in some places, population is 2 times bigger. People could work and could mine more coal, and they reduce and they close mines. This son of Yanukovych, because his father was the president, he made it some mines he made that his property, and he privatized layers. The mine in Russia, 35 million or 30 million on the balance, and there's one more mine, 55 million. And when somebody wrote a letter to someone, somebody didn't get something, and they don't want to break relations with the family. They are waiting for the family to come. What if it comes back? So where's the general prosecution? Where is SBU? Why an independent trade union has to raise these issues? Why? We have a question. Why? Here's Volynets, and I'm trying to criticize everything. And I speak about this because when I do it in public, then maybe public servants will start reacting. Let's give the floor to a public servant, because you had a lot of criticism. If you allow me to finish, okay. So, despite that extremely complicated, critical situation in the country, when there is the war and people die, I am so proud for people, and I feel that people are so united, who stood up to defend our motherland, and who together fight back those attacks and military, energy, economic, and it's very important to hold such events like this one for us to analyze the situation and to find constructive approaches to solve problems. Not to do it somewhere in corridors, but to do it in public. That's why we are here. And I would like that criticism to the ministry. It's very difficult for me to comment because they don't meet the reality. If there is a question, I invite you. For example, where did I lie? You can come to our discussion group, and we can discuss anything, and anyone can come. And I wouldn't like such places, grounds like this, and Ukraine Crisis Media Center, and the goal is to find a solution. I would like it to turn into the place of criticism, because we are responsible for finding a solution, and not just a ministry and trade unions separate. We live in one country, and our unity. That's why our salvation is in unity. For budget, for money from the budget, nobody imposes exports coal. You say our ministry would like to destroy the system, but energy system is just a living body, and once every second we produce as much energy as it is consumed, and the task is to keep the balance. And if we don't introduce limitations, and this is the last protection. As I told you, that we optimize production, and we have more nuclear power stations. We put limitations on supplies to Crimea, to export, and we are trying to balance the system with minimal consequences and influence on economy and on population. But if we take these measures, then the energy system can just break down, and there are some Luhansk region, for example, because electricity lines are broken. Luhansk power station is working separately. We didn't have it before, because one station what should be done based on automatically, because of the staff they are balancing 400 megawatt they produce, and they supply that to the half of Luhansk region. So that's why the work of our energy sector people, they work under extreme conditions. So we need to look for constructive decisions, and we respect your proposals and your ideas and your questions. We are ready to answer to that, but I don't think that this is the place where you should clarify everything. Come to the ministry, I invite you, and we'll discuss those issues with you there. Alexander, maybe you have comments or information to what Mykhailo told. My colleague told, and I will not start clarifying our relations. We will do everything in a regular way. There are problems, there are issues, and not maybe like Mr. Volynets told. Not everything is bad, and we are trying to think about solutions, and nobody will kick out monies, and we care about all of them. That's why the situation is very complicated, and that's why we do everything we can. Maybe because there is no communication, because the internet is not working, and contacts are very poor with Luhansk region, and mobile communication doesn't work. Maybe we don't know everything what's happening locally, but we react to all events there, and we take decisions. That's why there was no catastrophe in our regions, in coal mining regions. There was no accident. I wish them not to take place. So we will solve everything in a regular order. I have an impression that high officials, public servants, maybe they are not planning to work for long and not to be responsible. But the society cannot live under conditions of a bad winter without electricity, without heating, and if enterprises are dead. That's why I again ask the question, and I would like the society to hear. You see, this winter will be very severe. Reserves of coal. Now consumption is not high. We are not heating now. So that coal will, those reserves will be enough until November. At some heat station, they have coal for 11 days, for 15 days, and for 80 days. You think it's enough? What if in the winter there will be heavy frost, minus 20, for example? But if you reduce, if the temperature goes down, the consumption of electricity will grow by 1 million kilowatt, for minus 1 degree. Will we be able to live through the winter? Will our energy system stand, or will everything stop? That's why I came to this round table, and now I'm happy to participate. Sometimes we have discussions during meetings. But to my questions, the minister makes a face that he's offended, and he tells that we are not planning to close to shut down the mines. But the first deputy, who is responsible for coal, gives an interview and to a newspaper, Holds Ukraine, and he told that we are going to close mines. And so, will you do it or not? So somebody believes that this is unprofitable at all. If we don't want to finance our coal industry to make our energy cheaper for the whole country, I mean electricity, heating, etc. Transportation, because that's a part. Then we'll buy coal abroad from Russia, for example. I know that you are planning to buy coal from Russia, and that will depend on Russia. But we have enough of coal for 400 years. And we have mines and we have miners. If there is not enough of certain kinds of coal, we have to discuss that. But we have to understand what the ministry is doing, what kind of responsibility of the government and all public servants here. Thank you very much. Vadim, Deputy Minister, had to leave. Maybe he did not answer all the questions, but now we have A and Q. We will have answers and questions. And take a microphone, please. Raise your hand if you want to ask a question. We need to put earphones if we don't speak English. Those who don't speak English, they need to put on earphones. Okay. Earphones. Give them a chance to put on earphones. We are translating here, so we are doing simultaneous translation, but they need to put their headsets on. Okay, you can ask the question.
My question is like the steel industry in.
And
my name is Pascal from Schweizaria, and my background, I'm an economist, and in Ukraine you have a huge steel industry, and I think they use a lot of coal. And now you have this special situation with this in Donbass area. Are the steel plants running, or are they also did they stop producing because they are huge consumers of coal? And if they still produce steel, can the government regulate, like say, you have to stop production because we need the coal for making energy?
I would like to tell you that enterprises that are a part of that are under our ministry, they get different kind of coals, and so here's the proportion: 2/3 are energy coal, and 1/3 is coke coal. If we got about 80,000 tons a day, that was about 25. Those are our coke. But everything related to steel industry, those are private enterprises. We don't control the situation there, how much coal they have in their reserves. So we don't know the level of the production. We, in our ministry, maybe my colleagues will answer your question, but I cannot answer your question. If to speak about, I told that we stopped getting coal because, and we don't mine coke. We get about 25,000 tons of energy coal, nothing else. As to reserves, I don't know how much they have. I would like to tell you that we mine some coal, gas coal, but some sorts of energy kinds of coal are missing, and that is a double use of coal. It can be used for energy and also for coke. And President Yanukovych, under the pressure of Putin, he refused to introduce quotas for coke from Russia, from Kazakhstan also. That was in December 2012, and in 2013 there were no quotas. So Russia brings unlimited amount of coke. Then our metallurgy, they could use that gas coke, which is mined, but instead of coke, they could bring energy coal, and of those kinds that we are missing, they could put a signature and say then that we are Ministry of Energy. We are not involved with private business. We have nothing to do with the metallurgy. But those who, if not professionals, to deal with this, Minister of Energy and Coal, he's not a minister of 93 mines. He's a minister of energy and should think about energy of the whole country, and he should know everything for our economy to work. Energy, yes, but not metallurgy. Look, the minister should go to the prime minister. If you're afraid, I can talk. I can do the talking.
In Switzerland, we have the opinion that Rinat Akhmetov runs the country. And people say Rinat Akhmetov, he gets enough coal. And that's my question is, why is the government looking more for the people? Because the situation in the winter will be severe because the electricity net is not stable. If the consumption is too high, everything breaks down. So all over the country, if the consumption is too high, the network is unstable and completely breaks down. So that's, I mean, you still have some months to go to solve that problem, but I'm really concerned that the ministers do not act accordingly to the situation. Or maybe I do not understand this point. Maybe it's also possible, but at the moment, I really feel a bit discomfort that Ukrainian people will have a very difficult time in January when the energy consumption is the highest. Because, and as you mentioned, in many towns you have a heating plant, and if the heating plant has not enough coal, what do people? They use electricity, and then the net is breaking down. Electricity net. I think the stability of the electric grid in Ukraine is not as strong as then it can take the surplus. So what does the government do to avoid this catastrophic situation? Possible. You still have time to resolve it.
I believe there are serious accusations that the government is not doing anything in this field. The Cabinet of Ministers set up a working group in the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, which includes those who mine coal those who transport, those who fight for liberation of Ukraine and territories of Ukraine, which is under control of separatists, and there is a Ministry of Emergency and some companies that own metallurgy factories and also power stations. Those private power stations. That working group monitors the situation daily, on daily basis. If there's any chance, the management of railroads react immediately if there if a town is liberated and if there is a broken bridge, right away they send their representative to build the bridge back. It was correctly mentioned that at present moment there is no question, there's no issue of deficit of coal for our energy sector. The main problem is how transport that, how deliver that coal from storage facilities to enrichment facilities, and to process that coal and then to deliver to our power stations. So, Ministry of Energy, he cannot be responsible for what is done by a military man. We will do our business a little bit later. We are under this difficult situation, and we are trying to protect our coal assets, and that when the territory is liberated, maybe not immediately, but we will restore mines. Maybe we'll pump out water, and then we'll get mine maybe even more than we do now. So that's why, if you call it, I wouldn't call it inactivity, and please don't use that word. The situation doesn't allow us to completely realize our plans that were developed by the government. So we develop our plans in the ministry, and the government has its own plans, but the situation, as you know, is difficult. The newspaper, Mr. Vivcharenko, together with your colleague, with the deputy minister, you demonstrated that you deviate, you dodge difficult questions. So I would like to repeat questions of Mr. Volynets. Is it true that you are planning to reduce salary of miners by 15%? And the second question, is it true that in the ministry there is the plan to shut down mines when the country needs coal? Thank you. I will try not to dodge questions. The number was 15%, was mentioned, Mr. Volynets, but where did he get it? I'm surprised where could he get such information? 15% salary reduction, salary cut. It's not true. Secondly, you have to understand that one has to earn money. You cannot get them from the sky. So everyone who is working, who mines coal, who maintains our mines, who pumps out water, all of them, they will get their salary 100%. The law says that when there is when somebody idles, or when someone doesn't work because and he's not the one who's responsible for that, and they are paid 2/3 from their salary, but they are obliged to come to the mine, to the enterprise, and so two-thirds, they receive 2/3. But believe to me that because of these military activities,
today, because of the military actions, no one comes to the company. Only some small people, they just call them by phone and they request them, please come, let's pump out the water, and there's the threat that there might be a bombing of that company anytime. How can we accrue salaries to people when we do not know where they are? Some went to Russia, some went to other regions. Some probably joined the separatists. Do we have to pay salaries to all of them? That's wrong. What would be the mechanism developed in general? I cannot tell you. All that work today, the salaries will be accrued. Mr. Volynets said that the salary wasn't paid for June in Lugansk region. It wasn't paid. It hasn't been accrued. It hasn't been accrued because there were such events taking place that even they could not get the meeting of the administration to accrue the salaries. In 3 state companies, they have not paid salaries in Lugansk region. Why? Because internet is not working, the treasury is not working. Technically, it is impossible to do that. The money is sitting at the budget accounts, and the first minute when the system starts operating, I can guarantee you that the salaries will be paid to these companies. Talking about closure of mines. Please understand, whatever we say, whatever we do, but the time has come for reforms in coal sector. Why? 2 figures. If the budgetary funding of the coal sector in 2010 was 7.2 billion hryvnias, that is to cover the difference between the revenues and expenditures. In 2013, this was more than 13 billion hryvnias. This process, let's imagine that this process continues. Will our state be able for a long time to provide money to cover these expenditures? So that is why we need to implement reform. How will it be implemented? No one says that it will take place tomorrow. We are now developing the concept, and the reform of coal sector will be done according to this concept. It will have money for liquidation of the companies which are at the stage of closing. They take billions of hryvnias because we are not closing them. There are the companies now where the cost of 1 ton is more than up to 10,000 hryvnias. It's just the cost of 1 ton of coal, when the price for sale is 700 hryvnias. Who needs such companies? Especially if there is a list of these companies prepared, then we will analyze what are the balance reserves in these companies. May I ask you the question? If these balance reserves are insignificant and with such costs, then we need to suggest to observing all the social guarantees and all the procedures, they are to be liquidated. But please tell, how much coal was produced last year and this year? How much do you forecast? Last year, 24 in Ukraine. In Ukraine, 81, 82 million. What do you forecast? We forecast. How can we forecast now? 70, 72. Then and 10 million will buy abroad. That is 12 billion hryvnias. That's what you are saying. But you will finance. But when will the military action stop? Then I will tell you how much coal we will get. Whatever we produce, that's the graph. I calculate very quickly. I look at the graph, I look at the forecast, and I see how much coal we will not get, and there will be no gas. We need to see how much will the population and the industry consume. It's difficult to calculate. And then we will have the balance of coal. Let's give the coal industry tomorrow 5 billion hryvnias. Why do they need them today? Let's finish up the military actions, and then we'll be talking about financing the coal industry. Today, in this situation, even if the government tells me, take money, we will refuse from this money. We do not need this money in this situation. But then they will not be needed. There will be no mines. Where did they get the information that they were forcing to reduce the fund of salary? They invited the directors to Kiev, and they gave the task to reduce the salaries by 15%. Those who did not come, for them, the salaries were not accrued. I will try to go back to continue this discussion. The most difficult issue is closing the mines. There are two things about that. The first one is the situation, existing situation. Today, the situation is such that we cannot talk about closing of something that is still operating. The situation in the country is such that no one can forecast what will happen in the future. We need to produce what we can produce, but there is reason and normal economy. We believe that this will happen quickly, the conflict will end up, and then we will have normal life. And normal life, whatever the miners or some representatives of authorities want. But the objective reality is such that in normal life, we have a big surplus of coal. We cannot export it because of its qualities. And more than 10 billion hryvnias of subsidies go into this black hole. And these three things are to be balanced, and this will lead to closing some mines. We need to talk about that honestly, but it's not time to talk about that now. Now we need to say, let's put this all aside till the situation gets normalized, and then we will come back and we will decide in the civilized manner what is to be closed and what not. That is what the minister answered. He said that we are not talking about closure of mines today. There's a program being developed for the perspective. It will not be passed by one minister. It will be discussed with the participation of trade unions as well. It's not time now. I believe we shouldn't be talking about perspective programs. The society needs to understand. Now we will preserve what we have, but then we'll say we'll be talking about other things. Please tell. I understand that the information that Mr. Volynets mentioned about limits to the energy supply of Krivorizhsky company, it is because we have the state of emergency in the country. The Ministry of Energy can limit the supplies and can reduce the investment component in the projects. They can regulate tariffs for all types of electricity. But could you say which measures have been taken and how long will it last? From the documents that I had access to, it looks like it will last for a month. And there's a graph of disconnecting some of the thermal power plants on the 24th of August. First two plants will be stopped. So we would like to know more. We would like to understand it so that we can explain it to people that this is the emergency situation in conditions of war. What has been done and what will be done. And this is the question not to me. And we have two sectors in the ministry. I'm responsible for coal industry, and there is the sector, energy sector, and there's another person who's responsible for energy sector. It's difficult for me to talk about how all these limitations are introduced. As the minister, as the person who works in the ministry, I know that there is a working group set up. There is a group that regulates all this work, and it's not like once a month, but the situation changes every day. They introduce some corrections. Now, it's not like we are on the verge of the collapse of the energy system. There are difficulties, there are different reserves at the plants. How will that be done? How quickly the coal will be supplied? It's difficult to say. The DTEC company, which has the plants which reduce the central-site grade coals, they have signed agreements and they have started the supplies of Russian coals. They have two of their mines in Rostov region, and they produce, they mine anthracite, and they supply coal from there to their plants. And our task is, we're not talking about purchasing some coals of gas grade. We are talking about something that we lack. That's A, anthracite, or T coals, T grade, lean coals. And we know the volumes of burning. Now we forecast its purchase for short period of time. We hope that what's happening in Ukraine will stop. And if we are talking about A grade coals, about 500,000 tons in the companies which are part of DTEC, Ravinki, Sverdlov, Anthracite. And then in our companies, we have about 300,000. For some period of time, we have the stock, but we need to have access to these reserves, and we fail to organize that. Another deputy minister could talk about regulations. I will not be able to do that.
One important question was not asked today, and that's about prices. When you make electricity more expensive, then normally the consumption goes down. So for private households, the energy is very cheap. It does not cover even 50% of the cost of production. That's not, and without keeping in mind the grid. The grid also costs, like the logistic from electricity from the factory to the household is also is not in this calculation. So electricity for the private household is by way too cheap. So as minister, you have now the right reason to raise the prices then, because then the consumption will not increase. Like if, say, you double the price to a reasonable level. And secondly, for Europe is the main issue. Europe does not want that the government subsidizes energy for all private people, because not all private people are poor in Ukraine. So what Europe wants, Western Europe, I mean, that you give poor people money that they can buy electricity for the market price. Because now electricity is far way too cheap in Ukraine. I see it how you use it. I mean, people waste it. It's no insulation, and as soon as you raise the price, the amount that people consume goes down. So my question is, when do you raise the price for private people? After the election?
Дозвольте, я відповім на це питання.
Allow me to answer that question. Though I'm not the representative of the government, but first of all, we need to say that the process has started. The tariffs are going up. Just to look at the tariffs for population and the tariff for industry, comparing it within one type of generation is impossible. In Ukraine, we have a very complicated system of energy market, and generation is different. And thirdly, I would like to say that this issue is very complicated, and the center pays a lot of attention to that. We had one roundtable, we'll have more, but now we're discussing some different problem. Let's leave this question for the events which will be taking place later. I'm from trade unions. I cannot agree that we have to postpone discussion of such issues, because not just the miners but other population will be also getting infuriated. Now people are getting the invoices and the payment for electricity is sometimes higher than the pension that the pensioner gets, and he has no other incomes, and there are no compensators. Talking about subsidies, there are many problems there. The population is very unhappy, and it's not difficult to forecast that in September or October we'll have a lot of social tension, and we need to talk about that. We need to make impossible such social conflicts inside the country. Because then, just like the Deputy Minister said, that people are defending the country. That's true. I have come from there. They are very courageous, but we are talking about energy sector compensators, and we're talking whether the population is protected. Continuing what the speaker said, I believe that Mr. Volynets mentioned the pensions and the prices for flats, for apartments. That's not so. The subsidies, it's difficult, but there is an opportunity to get subsidies. But if we say that if the tariffs are raised, this will result in the chance for the sector to survive, that's true. I believe we have no more questions. And I would like to wrap it up. We were talking about the emergency situation in the coal industry. It's very serious, but I would like to thank the experts, because we got quite a good presentation of what we had from miners. And we heard a very important voice from Mr. Volynets, but I believe that from the ministry we see the understanding of the situation, planning and forecasting. They're ready to listen, and they're ready to make constructive decisions. I would like to congratulate you all with the Independence Day. This is great holiday, great day for us, and we are to defend our independence in energy sector as well. And despite all the difficulties that we have, they will make us stronger. Thank you, and have good holidays. Thank you.